12,000 years ago in the Atlantean culture, the women that were receiving us when we were being born, they used to tell us, welcome to life, the path to death. So right at the moment when we were being born. So during our whole life, we were celebrating that we were closer to die. Instead of trying to avoid it, we were like, oh, I'm one day closer to become one again.
Welcome to the Deja Blu podcast, where we believe that living a life of magic can be the default. Join us each week as we playfully and authentically dive into the mysteries of life and explore what it truly means to be human. From spirituality, wellness, and all things taboo, we don't hold anything back. So without further ado, let's let the magic unfold. Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome back to another episode of Deja Blu. I have been giggly since this man has agreed to come on the podcast just yesterday. It was just a quick little spontaneous moment of deciding to have Matías De Stefano on the podcast. This is so exciting to be able to grace season 3 of Deja Blu podcast with this man's presence. First and foremost, I was going to give you a little bit of a personal introduction to who this human is. I got to be connected with Matías through our brother Aubrey Marcus. And from the moment that I got to connect with you, outside of everything it is that you have been creating in the world, just your grounded presence, lightheartedness, childlike awe and wonder, and while simultaneously diving to the depth is very gravitational and magnetic for me and being in your presence. And so first and foremost, there was a little girl inside of me that was like, be your friend. You're really cool. And then on top of that, Matías has come into this incarnation with the ability to remember all of your past life memory?
Remember whatever.
Remember a lot of information that is guiding us into a new direction for mankind and leading activations, energetic shift activations all around the world by listening on a very deep level to the vibratory state of the planet and that which is needed, and guiding those through their attention and their intention into a direction of illumination, and allowing us as a humanity to listen in a deep way and then remember, and from this remembering direct us in a space of healing. He is also the host of 2 shows on Gaia, where he talked about these past lives in vivid memory, and starting these memories from childhood of making drawings and putting them on your walls, of being able to create imagery very vividly from these rememberings of these past lives. And so recognizing, and I heard you talk about this on the podcast with Aubrey, that not everybody is here to remember, just like not everybody is here if we're in the body, not everybody is here to be the frequency of the heart. If there's heart cells and every single cell in the body just wants to be the heart cell, then we don't have a fully functioning body. Okay. And so this is what you said, not what I'm saying. And so recognizing that everybody's meant to remember all of these past lives. However, it is part of your dharma and your karma to be in this lifetime and to remember, and also recognizing that there are many, many people around the world that do have this remembering, but do not have the platform to be able to share their voice and to be able to share their message. Yeah. So having you here today is such a gift to be able to share your wisdom, your rememberings, your teachings and your guidance with this audience, and to be able to spread a message of healing, hope, and remembrance that gets sparked within all of us through everything that you share. So thank you so much for being here. You're such a gift to this planet, and I'm truly so honored to be able to sit in the presence of you and have you on the giant golden hands.
Amazing. Yeah. I love to be touched.
Yes, you're blessing my golden hands with your sacred tushy. So I want to dive right into it with you on a topic that's really present and that has, I guess, my head scratching a little bit recently over a dear brother of mine in the communities who actually passed away yesterday. Yeah. And so this is really ripe and present. I know that you're aware of it. Mm-hmm. You actually met him?
Yeah, I met him, yeah.
Oh, so you know what an earth angel.
Yeah, well, I met him for a while, not much time, but yeah.
And you felt his presence and multiple times that you came out to the ranch and to Austin. And so during these times and these moments, it can be just being human. I think it's so easy to think, oh, life will This is all I've ever known is life. And all I've ever known is that my friends are alive. And so it's easy to kind of get this like belief of being immortal.
Yeah.
And when somebody very close to us passes away, it is that remembrance of how fragile this human experience is. And yet simultaneously, I believe that this term death is a belief that something's over, in which I actually don't resonate that death is just the end, that we just disappear into this blackness.
Yeah.
That actually life is eternal, our souls are eternal. I'm curious, do you remember any past lives where you've actually remembered the bardo state or the state of being from one physical experience and then transitioning to a next?
Yeah. The death process, there are many ways to understand it, because when you talk it from a point of view of the spiritual level, it's like, oh yeah, it's easy. But when you go to the physical aspect, it's totally different from the perception that we have in the spiritual world. From the spiritual level, you would say death doesn't exist, but even though the body feels it, and the body feels the loss and like that void that is created. So what's the middle point of that? So yeah, I remember many of my deaths, and I have felt it. I have lived through that, and I kind of remember what happened after in different levels. But at every time is something that you cannot handle to feel how it is. It's like even if you are prepared, even if during your whole life you have been prepared for the moment of death, when you die, it doesn't mind that you are aware of that. You will feel the loss because your cells were designed to survive, not to die. So your mind can be prepared to transcend into the frequency of what is next, but your cells feel like they are losing. So it's the memory of the cells, basically, what is actually feeling that lost, that and it's fine to feel it, because the cells were designed for that. They were not designed to die. They were designed to survive. And so the grief and all that is good for the cells. It's something you need to feel. It's not that, oh, I know it's eternal, so we don't have to feel that. Our cells need to feel that, to recognize that something is changing. So it's a process that we always will feel like a grief, like a conflict to face in our lives. And every time that I died, in many times, in many ways, sometimes I was aware of what was happening. Sometimes I was not. So it depends on what is your level of consciousness, creates the reality that is coming. So basically, when you die, you're going to the fourth dimension. So the fourth dimension is eternity, meaning that it's not related to the patterns of the third dimension. So when you go there, there's no past, present, and future. There is eternity. So all the time is mixed, meaning that one feeling that you had when you die can be projected towards eternity. That's why a lot of people feel or think that after you die, it's eternal. The thing is like eternal life or eternal whatever, but it's not that exactly. It's not that you die and you will be forever like that. It's basically that you don't have a concept of past, present, and future. So you can be wherever, whenever, and space also changes. So sometimes people got attached to the place where they died. Some people get free so they can move anywhere in the world or anywhere in the universe. So it depends on the frequency you are in, the way you die, what you're going to find after, which is not after, it's basically a consequence. So it's a death, it's a consequence of your life. Basically for the spirit, there's no death or being born. It's a consequence, constant consequence of a sound. Is the silent between the words. And the silent between the words is what gives meaning to the words. And the words has meaning because of the silence. So it's a constant to make meaning, to make sense. And it's something that is all together. It's not separate. So we are being able to talk here because of the silence and the sound, which is like being born and die, but it's a whole conversation. So this is eternal. So when you understand that, when you get into that feeling, you will understand that the silence is needed in order for you to understand eternity. And the silence is much more important than the sound sometimes. And how you say the word will give a very awkward silent or a very funny silent or a very deep silent. So it's according to how you talk, how you express who you are.
So based off of Parker's spirit, and the way that he impacted every single person that he came into contact with, which was infused with inspiration and love, connectivity, unity, oneness, and just a deep warmth.
And he left the same way.
So the silence is rich and deep, would be my assumption.
Yeah.
For his spirit. It's a really comforting feeling. And also in his passing, what was really strong as just a constant reminder is that the only thing that truly matters when it comes to the ultimate adventure of passing from one frequency to the next is how much we loved. Like how much we love all sentient life, the people in our immediate field, recognizing everybody's God wrapped in physical form and an opportunity to love even deeper. And so you're saying, what I'm hearing is that you're saying that it's a consequence of the byproduct of how much you loved and remembered that actually that is you paving the path of the next frequency in which to go.
Yeah.
So in the journey of, I'm assuming you believe believe in reincarnation into a new essence.
It's not that I believe, I remember it.
Exactly. When I said the word believe, I was like, actually, it's not quite
I would choose
the right
not to believe.
Yeah. It's not a believe. I remember I've done it quite a few times.
I've done it many.
So with your remembering of what that journey looks like or feels like, how is your relationship when a near one or a close one to you has passed in this lifetime now?
Well, of course, I let myself to suffer because suffering is part of the recognition of the cells when they lost something. It's like when losing someone from your herd, let's say, is like losing a part of your body. So the body needs to react, cannot just act like if nothing happened. You have to allow yourself to feel it. Sometimes when we believe in reincarnation or when we believe in higher selves and whatever, usually it's like, I shouldn't feel angry or I shouldn't feel this because I know this is for the better. No, if your body feels that needs to cry, to suffer, you need to allow the cells to do that so they can express the feeling of losing a part of the hurt, of the whole. There's a totally different path for the mind or the soul, but the body needs to feel it. So myself, I allowed myself to do that. When, for example, my grandmother, she was with cancer, womb or ovary cancer, and well, she was very active until the very last moment, doing many things, even having sex that we figure out a few weeks before she died. Like, with who? She didn't say it. But she was very, very active doing stuff and whatever. But at the very last moment, she was blaming my grandfather because everything that happened to her. So what I did was in the hospital, to create a portal for her in the room. So I put all the crystals around so it would be easier for her to leave. And I was all the time saying, you have chosen this, release my grandfather. He's not the one to blame, blah, blah. Well, we were talking about that. Talk to the ground. So I was bringing his spirit here to talk to her, and she was like very angry about that. And I was saying, if you're angry, you're not angry with him. You will get stuck in the same level of frequency as he is. So if you don't want to find him, you have to light up because my grandfather is very low. So if you don't want to meet him, you have to release him so you are free, not him. So I was trying to do that, and I created a portal with many things inside the room, and all the nurses used to come to the room to get quiet and relax, and then they went again because it was like a peace space in that place. So I was accompanying her in the process of releasing, so she could live in the best way possible. But after a moment, is your responsibility. I just say, I can accompany you until this moment. You have to decide now what you're going to do, what you're going to feel. But I try to make jokes all the time, to make her laugh all the time, accompany her all the time. But the last moments I couldn't be there. So she left with the family, but the portal was opened. Everything was prepared for her. And I was glad because I haven't heard her in a long time, meaning that maybe she went very high. So that's why she cannot communicate. Otherwise, she would be in the fourth dimension. So it was good for all the process, but I allow myself to suffer the process of letting her go because the cells needed to feel it. It was my grandmother, so and I grew up with her all the time. So, but we always talked about death and the process. So it's something for me is very useful to talk about death all the time, saying, "Oh, how do you want to be buried? Do you want to be burned, or where do you want your ashes to go?" Yeah, this kind of things, and laugh about it. That makes it more easier, because it's as I said, it's a process that you shouldn't deny, because there's only one truth in this life, and you're gonna die. That's the only truth. You're gonna die, so it's part of life. So it doesn't matter how it happened. The thing is how you lived. So the transcendent process is better.
So if one has lived a life of forgetting our original, sense of self, and what I mean by that is maybe lived a life of dishonor, of stealing, of lying, of division, ultimately. What would be the consequence then for a soul like that is transitioned from the physical realm?
Well, there are many answers to that, because it's not like a constitution. It's not like there is a book written on that, and if you have stolen, you're a bad person. Actually, it is very related to how do you feel about it, and how your resonance is about it. Meaning that there are people that have done bad things with other people, that they feel very high, and you can tell they are in a spiritual path or in a balance with themselves, being coherent with what they are doing. This seems like, so I can be a bad person and even though transcend in a very good way. Yes, because there's no God that judges us. I don't know. Well, if you believe in something like that, it will happen. But actually, for the universe, it's all about resonance. So it's about in which level of consciousness you are resonating. The thing is, I'm trying to summarize how the system would would work. But for example, when you do very bad things to others, even if you feel good about it or coherent with that, the weight of others blaming you is a very deep weight of energy that pushes you to the matter again. So when you die, you probably will find trapped in the link of a network related to all the souls that you affected. So even if you feel that you are high vibrational, you will have to deal with that. So you will have to start trying to work to heal those links and find these people in every life that you come back, trying to heal those links that you have created. So basically, it's much work. I don't like to say bad things. I like to say disharmonious things. So when you create chaos in other people's lives, eventually you will have to create order in those people's lives. So the two answers would be, to summarize all the possible answers, the two answers would be, it depends actually on which level of resonance you live in, which level of coherence, because there is a lot of people that work for spirituality that they actually resonate in a very low level. Like people that are meditating all the time, whatever, but actually they are all the time sad and dark, and they are not improving, they cannot do anything, they are, 15 years doing the same thing all the time. So that's a low vibration. So it doesn't matter how good person they are, how good people they can become, what happened after that will be in the same level as they were the whole life. So sometimes people that create bad things evolve faster than people that they think they are doing the good things. So it's all about resonance, because maybe that person that did bad things found a way to solve the problems faster than the people that is meditating all day. So it's very complicated. There's no a right answer for, if I do bad things, where do I go or how it is? Because there's no one really controlling that. Like, is basically like resonance. You will match with what you are resonating.
So it's not like a binary experience of like good and bad,
No.
which is essentially, the great religions will say you're going to hell or you're going to heaven.
Yeah.
And it's like this one or the other kind of experience. And I must be a good person based off of what some societal expectations of a morality compass.
Yes.
However, it's more so like a vibration or a radio station of like the energy that is emitting, or the frequency or the resonance that goes out based off of every action and the energy behind it, then will determine what is the consequence of that vibration and the charge that's created. So if then a series of negative actions, or negative being like a dissonance that has created dissonance within others, it creates an energetic charge that then, when passed through from this physical realm to the next, it holds a consequence of equal measure of the charge that's created. Also on the other side of it is the resonance of inspiration, for example, where everywhere you go, you inspire, you uplift, you create humor and inspire, then that of equal measure has to be the consequence when passing through.
And it's all related to frequencies, because frequencies doesn't lie, but morality is lying all the time. For example, what Jesus did 2,000 years ago was very bad for Romans, was very bad for the Jewish. They hated him for what he did. But the followers said he's doing the right thing. So what is bad, what is good? He was dishonoring God by saying he was God. And a lot of people said, because he's God, so he's doing the right thing. And other ones were like, no, he's dishonoring the name of God. And that's until now. So where is Jesus, in hell or heaven? Depending on who, which point of view. So that's why you cannot say ever someone is doing something bad or something good. Usually you can say these harmonious things when you are affecting in a bad way life of others that eventually will be attached to you, and you will have to solve that if you want to become free from that. But it's not a judge.
It's not black and white, that's for sure. It makes perfect sense. It makes much more perfect sense than this whole idea of like, oh, there is somebody on a cloud with a gate and a staff, and you get there and you're like, so which way do I go? And they're like,
only two
to hell
ways?
with you.
Okay. We all should go to hell. I don't think there's anybody that could say I met heaven if that system would work.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. At this point, the party sounds like it's in hell. So
Yeah.
just go down there instead.
Even St. Peter, I wouldn't trust him in the gate. Worst person ever. Sorry.
So I'm really like, my body feels in deep resonance with everything that you're saying, based off of a resonance experience. And I'm curious then, so based off of the charge that's created is the vibration or the consequence in which you go in the next frequency in which you move into once you've gone from this physical dimension. Then what is the journey of reincarnation in the sense of, does somebody go to the fourth dimension and wait there for a while, connect with the people they want to connect with, feel that essence, and then choose a life, or is assigned a life to move into? What does that next stage look like once?
It's also resonance.
Yeah.
Nobody really choose. You have to become in order for something to happen. It's like you don't choose your parents. We can use that word, like you are choosing your parents, because that's something more human to understand. But actually is your resonance that choose your parents, for example. So it's according to how you are resounding and vibrating. And what it means that sometimes a high vibration needs a low vibration in order to accomplish a mission. So that's why some people choose very bad parents. It's not because, or why should I choose this reality? Because otherwise you would be so high in vibration that you wouldn't accomplish anything. You needed these tools in order to match in the perfect harmony. So these kind of things are the ones that explains that it's not, oh yeah, I want this parent that are very bad people. Like, that makes any sense. But in order to accomplish something, if you need to find a middle point and you are very high, in order to find this, you need a weight to lower you so you can find the middle point. So that's why you would use very tough environment in order to find the middle point and not get lost in the higher level. Because otherwise you would be schizophrenic or whatever, lost in the mind. So that's why choosing, it's always about resonance. And here happen many things. We can see it from the point of view of the third dimension, the fourth dimension, or the fifth dimension, reincarnation. From the fifth dimension, you have never reincarnated, actually, because you are everything. So from the point of view of the fifth dimension, actually, your only spirit is basically expressing itself in different timelines and different spaces. So actually, there was no past life because it's already happening. There's no future lives because they are already happening. So actually everything is happening in the fifth dimension. It's actually happening in a lower vibration, which is past, or a high vibration, which is future. So from the point of view of the fifth dimension, the spirit is just looking at a point, and you are just living that reality just by staring at it. From the point of view of the fourth dimension, the soul is traveling in these waves of time, so express itself in one point of those and live the experiences of that. So you can call that the life of your soul, like your soul is living a life. So you have the memory, in your soul you have the memory of that life. Like for example, I remember many lives in my history, but only 3 or 4 of them are very related to me, as this is something that I actually lived as a soul traveling through time. But it's like a wave of an ocean. So it's like sometimes the wave of the soul goes up and sees the light of the sun and then goes down again, but it's the ocean. So it's not different lives. It's basically an experience of something that is moving, that is a constant. And through biology, reincarnation basically is all the time, because energy is constant. So there is no one that have died and then reborn in a different life. Actually, is always you. actually the energy of your ancestors, for example, are all your past lives. And maybe thousands of years ago, you were living in Africa and you remember a life in Africa and said, oh, I remember this life in Africa. But actually it was your grandmother living in Africa eventually, because at some point we were just a few humans. So in your cells, you have the memory of all of them, of everything that happened. By resonance, you can access to any human and any memory of this planet. So when you remember a past life, it's not that your soul died, went to the fourth or fifth dimension, made a plan, and then decided, I will come back this year with these parents, and blah, blah. It's not like that. The body is a constant in transformation. So every life before yours is a past life. So you can access any of them. Your soul is moving like a wave through time. So there are some lives that will match with you more than others, because in this wave that you are, imagine like many different waves. So if you are this high, you will match with the other waves that are in the same high. So that's what you call my past life. But actually it's all your past life. Everything is your past life. But you will call your past life those who you can see straight because they are in the same high. You see the picture, maybe? Yeah. I don't know. Okay. So what we call past lives is not the soul leaving a body, going to the fifth dimension, deciding something and coming back. Actually, it's all happening in the same moment. The fifth dimension is always staring. It never goes to the fifth dimension, check something and go back. In the fifth dimension, you're always in the fifth dimension, staring at that. And you just become aware from the fifth dimension that, oh, now my resonance has, 11.5 of resonance, let's say. So there are like 3 other times that you had the same 11.5. So that means that this life will help you to understand this one, because they have the experience that is useful for you today. And all the rest are not, because they are in different resonance. But actually you are all the same. So when we usually say past life, it's not yours. It's just that you are matching in the same frequency as those others. That's why so many people remember the same person. Like, I've been this people, or I've been this person, or I have been in this. Imagine we are like millions of people today, and just a few thousand years ago, we were like 10,000. So thousands of years ago, we all were those 10,000 because that's why we can remember the same period of time being so little population, because actually it was us all the time. Now we just spread, and the memories are spread. So you can remember maybe the story of how you were part of an arm of Julius Caesar. And you say, I was Julius Caesar. No, you were just a finger. But, but you kind of remember I was part of him. So that's why
the pinky of Jesus Christ.
That's it. So you can be very proud of it. But because every cell has all information, so you can relate with that person as you being that, because we are all one. So that's why we say a past life. No, it's not a soul going and deciding. The soul is like an ocean, feeling.
It's a little bit like the movie. Is it called Anything Everywhere All at Once? Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
It kind of reminds me my brain tries to find something that can create logical sense based off of, some reference point of what it is that you're talking about based off of what I've seen up until this point. And I think the best way that I can even just create a level of relatability of what it is that you're sharing is this movie, where it's basically is anything and everything all at once. Like, it's all...
There's all Clo Atlas.
Coexisting.
That it's something that a movie that is difficult to understand.
Yes.
Cloud Atlas.
Yeah.
But it's that. It's like different times, but they never say is the past or the future. You interpret it is the past or the future according to where you are. But actually the movie is showing you that everything is happening in the same moment and every character are the same.
Yeah.
They're all one.
Exactly.
And everything is happening and they are discovering the same thing in different timelines. So it's basically that. It's not a past life. It's all one, being one, experiencing different perspective of only one thing. And we call it past life because that's how we try to interpret that from the third dimension.
So this sort of reminds me of the essence of shape-shifting.
Yeah.
In the sense that when I did my darkness retreat, I went into the under the earth for 4 days and 4 nights in complete pitch black.
Nice.
Powerful beyond because I couldn't see my physical form anymore. And so there wasn't an identification of what I am or who I am or how I express or what I've been called or what gender I am or how I'm being perceived by the world. It was just whatever is alive in every single moment is that which is needed. And so I experienced a level of shape-shifting that I've never really been able to tap into this extremities of it. And it being that the emotional state, the emotions being like the ocean forever changing. If I needed to go into a place of grief, then what came into that space, messages were coming through or guidance or support or deities or guides. And I became the physical expression of that which was needed. And so I experienced an infinite ability to access what felt like a diamond, and there's many, many different faces of the diamond, and it's saying that the diamond has and always has been here, and the access to the diamond has just got many faces. And actually that, you know, we hear the saying that the only thing is constant is change, and the ability to actually be that which is needed in every moment is the art of shapeshifting, and therefore actually being able to pull on the information from past lives, which are past lives, but actually happening all simultaneously.
Exactly. Yeah. It's only one thing that you are just observing it from different points of view. There's nothing else actually. there's only that diamond or that crystal in the center, which is basically geometry projected by light, and the reflections of that light gives you all the colors, all the possibilities, and it can only exist because of the polarity, time and space, but it's eternity. So you can see anything in any time. So yeah, and you can access that. Anyone can access that.
However, I believe that to access it, first we have to unbecome everything we've been told that we are.
Yeah, that's why we have to die. It's a practice. It's a very tough practice.
To die to actually truly be able to fully live the full spectrum. It's like the sweet paradox. Of a death of any identity from the moment that we're born, of going, okay, well, your name is this, and this is your religion, and this is your social class, and this is your skin color, and et cetera, as the labels that we have been placed from the moment that we're born. It gets to a certain point where there's a death, or many actually, not necessarily a physical death of the
No, you have to have body. Many deaths on life. Yeah.
To actually be able to access that which is needed, which is the multidimensional experience of what it truly means to be human.
Yeah.
It's all making you, I feel like the connector between all of the different thoughts that I've been feeling, but you actually are bridging it together to create a lot more of cohesive sense. Yeah, and you're doing your job very well.
So basically these different depths that we have to have of our personality, basically the spirit needs to create different options, which are all those layers, in order to understand the whole. Basically, we have to remember that the universe is only one thing. And being one thing, you cannot achieve anything. You cannot manifest. You can't do anything. So you have to divide in two in order to create polarity, and polarity manifests the third. So you need to create many different options in order to experience different possibilities so you can manifest and become the creator. The thing is that when you have lived through many of those options, suddenly you have two ways, which is to start being disharmonic or to start to find harmony. Meaning that, I have lived all that in order to be able to manifest, or I have lived all these things and I have no idea why. So you start to create chaos. So usually when you are in balance with all of this, you are not trying to reach the spirit. But when you are in chaos, you're trying to reach the spirit. Why? Because when you are balanced with all of this, you already know that you are the spirit. So there's nowhere to go. When you are unbalanced, you are trying to find out how to reach that because you don't know that you are that. So you create more options and more options and more options and more layers until you reach out someday that the spirit is within. So what do you have to do? Take one layer, take one other layer, another layer, until basically you start to die. So every layer you take is a death because the cells are trying to survive. Because the cells are trying to survive, they create structures that protect them so they can be something. Because they are something in one time and one space. There's the real cross. The real cross, the crucifixion, is actually time and space. In the middle point, the heart, is actually a cell or a memory. So the memory starts to create more layers and layers and layers of gravity to protect that core, that heart, so it can survive in a certain time and a certain space. So it can say, I am here and now, which is something that we all say. Here and now, I am. These things is basically the cross of time and space and a dot in the middle, trying to locate itself and say, okay, if I move a little bit like that, I won't be myself anymore. So I have to protect the ego, myself, the anchor of all that, so I can be something and not get lost into the many. That creates the personalities, that creates all the things that we have to use as tools. The thing is that when we get lost into that, we start to look for the spirit and we go within. And that's when we need to die once and again, which is taking these layers off. And those layers are not bad. Those layers are just tools. So it's not that you have to erase the layers to find the spirit. You have to acknowledge why you put the layers there, why your spirit needed those layers in order to do something, to manifest something, to become a creator in your expertise. But because we get lost in so many things, we have to die in order to remember the inner core of the cell. Where is the reason why I exist? And then all the rest makes sense. But that's why we have to face, it's not a must, but if you feel lost, it's a need to bring yourself to experience of death, so you can relate to the real truth of who you are and then use the fake you with a purpose.
So when you say bring yourself to a space of death, like you feel lost, feel disconnected, feeling like you've drifted very far away from that center of the cross, essentially, the remembrance that it's actually I'm here and now. How would one then take some action steps of going, okay, well, to bring myself into a death before I actually die? What does that look like?
Well, one of the first deaths that we have to do is to end up some relationships, for example. One of the main things that people do when they become aware of themselves is get divorced. And so, because you understand that, oh, I was relating to someone else in order to be me, but to be me, I have to be me. And that usually takes you away from partners, friends, and stuff. And it's painful because it's the first death. The first death is to change your environment. Basically, the first death is to recognize that you are because of your environment. And if you want to be yourself, you have to be by yourself for a while. And that breaks with all the structure you have around. Because the structure you had, family, friends, partners, was just a protection for the cell. So when the cell cracks itself and says, I have to transform into another thing, all the environment that has created, the patterns that has created, they are not needed anymore. So you need to transcend into another level. And it's not leaving people behind, it's just matching with your new self. And they will find another core to locate it. So that's one of the first deaths, to dare to do that, which is very difficult because we are mammals. And because we are mammals, we think always in herds. And we think, what I'm going to do alone. If I am alone, someone can kill me, I can die, I will starve, because that's a mammal mind. So we need the herd. So immediately when you get out of your herd, usually you look for another one, and it repeats again. And until you find out, oh no, I had to be alone in order to find myself. So you have to die and die and die and die in many groups and many people and many partners, because your cells are just trying to adapt to a new environment that can protect you. But in order to be a spirit, you shouldn't be protected for anything. So your cells must understand that you have to prove yourself in a different environment that you would never live. Like you live in the States, well, try to go to India and break all your thoughts and the way of living. When you go to India and you have no idea about India, that's cracking the mind. Or going to China, or going to a place that you would never visited before, or a country that you don't understand anything, or they drive different, or whatever. So your mind dies in one aspect of you. Sometimes are just tiny things, like changing the way you eat. That's a death for the cells, because they feel love through food. Sometimes caresses, but mainly food. What you feed your cells with is the love you're giving to your body. So that's another death, if you take away something from it. So sometimes there are tiny things. It's not that you have to, jump from an airplane and face death, It's not that it has to be that tough, but eventually it will become tougher, like going 4 days in darkness to remember that you are not you. That your mind just think that it's you because you are in an environment that reminds you that it's you. Mm-hmm. But if you are out of that environment, your mind starts to, okay, I have to remember how it was to be in the depth of the oceans because it's dark. So how do I survive here? I have to adapt to different shapes. I have to bright myself like the beings in the deeper ocean. So how you start to change. So these kind of experiences like medicine, the natural medicines, they change you from within. I don't know. There are many ways. And also, I don't know, I did the quarter path once because my guides told me you have to die. So I went and faced death in Tibet, walking at very high altitude without preparation. And the guide that was guiding me was saying, you're going to die. You're going to die. Yeah. I was like, yes. That's the point. Yes. And I now almost died, literally.
But yeah, actually, though.
It was
physical.
Yes.
Wow.
But I had to do it to do my next step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So don't do that. Don't follow my advice. It's like, okay, go in, to that.
Take a note. Go almost physically die, and I shall come closer to home.
Yes.
Matías. I mean, I'm going through my own breakthroughs and like massive realizations, and I've got a lot of journaling to do after this podcast, just to integrate everything that you're sharing. And it just feels like, again, I've had a very, very deep resonance. I have one final question just around this specific topic, around the conversation of death and the transition, and also just death before we actually die physically. Mm-hmm. Last night, I was sitting with feeling the suffering and the grief of the passing of dear brother Parker, and I felt this like desire and urge to want to communicate with him. Mm-hmm. And to want to connect with him. And the only way that made sense for me in that moment was to sing his favorite song and to feel his presence and to ask him to come be with me. Another way was for me to sit in front of my altar and to make some offerings, to light a candle and write his name. Do you have any guidance if somebody wants to connect with somebody that has passed through? You mentioned that when your grandmother passed, you realized that it was actually very difficult for you to connect with her, because she must have gone to a higher frequency where she was actually not being able to be contactable at that point. It was somebody that has just passed, as in yesterday. Would you give any guidance to be able to communicate with them?
First, why? Why would you like to communicate? To say what? Of course, we need communication because we are that hurt. That I need to feel the person closer. My thought on that is to help that person to go away the farthest and the fastest as possible, because otherwise the person get attached to the third dimension and they cannot actually leave properly. So if they reach the consciousness of the fifth dimension, they are able to come back, talk, common dreams, say everything is okay, but only if they reach the fifth dimension.
Right.
So they have to go very far away from our realities to communicate with us with freedom. Otherwise,
not being stuck.
Exactly. Otherwise, they get stuck in the eternity of the fourth dimension, which is very chaotic, and some people could get lost. So every grieving process should actually be like if you light a candle, if you sing a song, is to accompany that person into the path of going through. Like I dedicate this for your path towards, but not because I want you to be here. When we do that, sometimes the person might feel like they have something to give you, or that they are doing something bad leaving you. So, because for at least 1 week, that person is still connected to the emotions of all the people that are alive, because that's the only reality that their cells and emotions have known before. So there's no understanding of what is going on after. So you are gonna be trying to attach yourself to the known in order to not get lost, and that's how a lot of people get lost, actually, because they don't have the opportunity to go beyond and to become aware of what is happening. So everything that we do for grief and for mourning should be into a company. I remember a sentence that 12,000 years ago, when in the Atlantean culture, the women that were receiving us when we were being born, they used to tell us, "Welcome to life, the path to death." So right at the moment when we were being born. So during our whole life, we were celebrating that we were closer to die. Instead of trying to avoid it, we were like, "Oh, I'm one day closer to become one again." So we used to celebrate the moment of death as follow the path, and you eventually will come back. But to come back as a master, you have to become a master of your life. So you shouldn't be afraid of living this one. So that's why every now and then we have to experience death in different ways in order to remind us how it is to leave everything behind and to transcend. Because otherwise you will come back very soon, like okay, maybe tomorrow he will be born again. It's not like you have to wait a certain time in a calendar to come back. Some people, I used to make the joke of some people are just seeing the tunnel, but it's just the vagina, because they are doing it so fast.
Literally right back in.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God. No way.
Really?
And that's why babies cry. It's like, oh my God, I wanted to rest. But because there's no time, there's no space. So it can be very fast. Yes, exactly. Actually, when that, a lot of people are being born immediately, like in that same week or whatever. But sometimes when that happened, and if wasn't the choice, it was just because of resonance, as I said before. You are just coming to solve things that you would have been aware if you would reach the fifth dimension in your consciousness. So it's like a lot of people is being born just because they get attached to this. So they have to live a whole life to understand one thing that they could just understood in 1 second in the fifth dimension. And now you have to go to school, learn how to talk, all that. So,
damn it!
Yes. It's like all again.
Whoa. I mean, it's quite a strong consequence. Like, time here is quite long compared to, I'm sure,
it's
other
better
dimensions.
to create portals and say, go. Go.
There's a meme online that I've seen of like a child that was born and has got like this really angry expression and really like went through all of that just to be reincarnated again. Like,
yes, just 1 second.
Yeah. Wow, it's really putting things into perspective because last night there was like the energetics, if I was to give it an expression, was like this. And ultimately, my number one intention is to truly be of greatest service to his spirit and where will be the highest expression of his pure soul. And the one thing just based off of what I feel like to know about him is that he cares so deeply about people that me being here on the 3D plane, not really understanding what it is that I'm doing, going,
Yes.
contact me, come to me in my dreams. Like before I went to sleep, I was like, come visit me in my dreams, you know. I actually think that that's not the most serving energy I can do to contribute. Now that I have context for it, my grief is going to take a slight pivot to the right. And my songs will be an offering of supporting with the transition into the highest expression of his soul and not necessarily going straight back through a vagina to live another life.
Exactly.
Because of that part of him that just wants to still
just
appease the people.
You want to give him a hug.
Yeah.
So a whole life again just for a hug?
Not worth it, my bro. I'll hug myself in my sovereign power on the other side of many ego deaths that I can then grant myself one of these as opposed to one of those.
Oh, well, sometimes the ego needs a hug, so it's fine.
It's really, really helpful because now I feel like when I sit at my altar and I call in his spirit with the intention of creating an easeful experience for him to go wherever his soul needs to go. And I think that regardless of whether I'm referring to, of course, Parker in this kind of situation, but more so just the understanding of how we can best support those that have passed and the families and the ones connected to those that have passed as well, and how we can also guide them to be of greatest service.
And always you can say, if there is anything I can do to help, I am here, open, to listen, to feel, because sometimes they don't need you and you're just grabbing them like because of your need, not their need.
Exactly.
So, which is natural, of course, as I said, but it's something that we have to practice in order to release and to make the best process, not to grab the beings.
And ultimately, I believe that everybody just wants to do what's best. We just don't have guidance or context. Like we haven't been trained in school. How do we navigate someone passing? Or how do we prepare for our own death?
This is one of the first things you should learn at school, not to...
It's so helpful.
Not to write.
Matthias, I want to go to your school. I'm going to send my kids to your school.
I'm trying to create one, eventually.
That's happening, right?
Yeah.
You're creating a school for...
Next year, I'm trying to put together a university where people could teach, share, and create projects to help others. So that's my goal after my activation thing.
Energetic activations that you're doing.
My 11 years of activations have been done. I'm just accompanying now other people that will do that to try to help them to know how to feel it or those kind of things, to put together some data. But I will try not to do it by myself anymore. My goal is education. So next 11 years will be that.
Devoted to actually
education.
Recognizing there's only one of you.
What?
There's only one of you. And yet,
of what?
One of you in the sense of like, there's only two hands. One heart can only do so much, but if we can train some other people,
of course. And I think that that we all should know when is our time. Like I have come here to do a specific task with the planet for a moment, and now I have to move on to the next stage because there are new people coming to do it in a different way that is needed now. So, yeah.
How can we support you with this vision coming into fruition? How
I
do you
don't
feel
know.
like you can be supported?
Well, it's of course you have many ways, but we are just beginning with this new thing. So we are putting together the project to for, of course, those people that know and teach and have knowledge, they would be received as part of the people that could teach there. For sure, I don't want to pick them. The students will, by kind of voting. So my idea is to bring all these people and also much more members of our foundation so we can hold the space, the physical space, the network space, so we can do it freely everywhere. So it can reach everyone.
Oh, we'll definitely put more information in all of the show notes and
Yeah.
all of the ways of being able to follow you and continue to support with that vision being made manifest, because it's the most resonant thing that I believe that the world needs in my body. My body's going, yes, please, and thank you for my future children.
Maybe you would think, I don't know, I want to go to Matias school to learn about the spirit, and suddenly you find out a biology class or how to sow potatoes, and so you have to be aware of that.
Releasing any and all expectation while also opening our hearts to our dharma. And if it's potatoes, then it is potatoes in this life.
Yeah.
Okay, so transitioning into a completely sort of different flavor, however, it's something that's really strong on my heart. Speaking of, I guess the segue is speaking of the amount of death that we go to truly live, ego death, identity death. I personally have gone through one significant one, even though it's been many small things that have led to that. But the transition of my birth name, Charlotte, and everything that I created the identity around Charlotte, and then going through a full rebirth where I shaved my head. I changed my name to Blue. For many reasons, and connected very strongly with the blue beings, which still don't make a whole lot of sense to me, but the resonance and the feeling makes a whole lot of sense to me. I went through a really profound activation in Bali where it felt like the heavens sort of opened up, and I had just shaved my head, and this was going into this initiation of this new version of me. And what my experience was that they came through into my body and into my hands and did a full activation on my own body. And it was a technology and a language and the way mudras and certain activation on my own physical body that logically didn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
The resonance felt like I was being held by a home that was before the home that I chose on this planet. And since that point, I was actually sat in the middle of a circle of women. They were all wearing white, and no one was expecting this to happen. But it felt like a tear in the dimension opened up, and the women all went through activations that day too, where their bodies were like shaking, and after that, it became this thing in the community of like what happened in Bali, because pretty much all those women broke up with their partners and went into a whole different timeline.
Well, and you were in one of the powerful nodes of the planet, of course.
Yeah.
Bali is like
Indonesia.
It's like a spinning the island. It's like a spinning circle of going up and down. Is one of the most powerful portals for transcendence. So.
Oh, I didn't know that, but that is exactly what happened.
Right. Okay. Cool.
It was honestly, they still, when I connect with those individuals that were there, they were like, what happened there? And that I feel like was the first day that my actual true resonance of life started. So I'm curious about if you have any memories or remembrance around the blue beings and what they represent. Are they among us? Are they initiating us into a level of resonance to be able to truly be of service to the ascension of this planet? I'm just curious to give a little bit of context, because your presence and your stories seem to I have two dots, but they aren't connecting. And you go, hello, and ding, and all of a sudden it's all making sense. So I'm curious if you have any insights around the blue being.
Let's try. Blue, in Atlantean times, we used to call the higher priest the blue ones. So the blue ones were all painted in blue. They used the blue colors, and they weren't unseen by normal people. Usually they were covered in veils. And they said they were the gods manifested on the matter, and they call themselves the blue ones. So we had no idea about their names. We just call them the blue ones. And they at the beginning they started in an island in the Atlantic Ocean, but the reason why we started that tradition of the blue ones was because there were actual blue people. That came from Arcturus, from the constellation of Boots. So those people were bluish because in their planets, I guess, they don't have much oxygen. So basically we have red blood because of the oxygen, and it oxides the blood, the iron in the blood. But they had blue one. So they were very pallid and white, so you could see the blood running.
Like iridescent almost. It's almost like they're see-through, and they're really tall.
Yeah, tall. Very tall, like 2 meters or something.
Yeah.
And more, yeah. And they were, we call them the actual fathers of the civilization. They came here to guide our civilizations to know how to transcend the shapes, how to transcend civilizations. So other ones were designing our civilizations and guiding us in how to build, and they were designing how to build ourselves within. Like, in order to move a rock to build a pyramid, you have to have the power in yourselves. So I could relate them as the physicians of the galaxy, like they were teaching us the power of the cell and how to activate it by sound and the power that has inside. So basically they came from Boots, the constellation of Boots. We call it today the Arcturians because of the star Arcturus, which is blue. So they basically shaped the mind of the people, and they became like the gods. That's why in many traditions, the gods that teach humanity, they are blue skin. Like you have in India, Krishna with the blue. In the Mayan culture, also the blue skin. In the Egyptian one too, Osiris with blue skin. So the blue ones were everywhere, like being the gods that guided humanity because of that tradition of Attihilu, we call it, the ones that looked like the sky, which is color. So that's what I know about them, and basically they were guiding us on how to build ourselves from within. And that's why people used to paint themselves in blue to emulate them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because also
it was a very difficult color to get. So it meant royalty. The blue blood actually was because of that.
Mm. When the name came to me, I was in a yoga class, and I was like getting into Warrior 2, and I just said, "Your name is Blue." I was like, blue. I don't even like that color that much. You know, I'm like fanatic about blue, and everything must be blue. It was really bizarre because I had no intention of changing my name. I didn't, it wasn't really something that I, felt super cool to. I loved my birth name. And when I asked, like, blue what? I was just blue. He's not supposed to know anything, just blue. And I was like, really? Just blue? Like, this is it? This is what you're giving me? And I was like, kept trying to move away from it. And they're like, nope, just blue. And then had an interaction with the very tall, skinny, iridescent blue beings that felt very familiar, like all surrounding me, just kind of like holding like this, going through the rebirth and the reactivation. And ever since then, the resonance of a life of alignment has really locked in. And of course, many deaths since then too, to continue to move into an essence of alignment. But then once it gets to a certain point of resonance, then service is the only thing that makes sense, is to serve from that place. And then of course, here we have the podcast and just continue to bring wisdom and awareness through various guests that can be able to utilize media as medicine to spread a message in a good way of empowerment for the people. Is the only thing that seems to make sense. Wow. So do you remember your lives in, were you ever a blue being, or do you remember your lives?
I was part of the families that were part of the blue. I was not a blue being, but I was called a blue one once in certain ceremonies that I had to wear blue in the face. But I was not direct part of it. It was just a tradition.
And so that's how you have that memory of
it was stories from my grandfather and everyone. It was like Christmas for us, like painting on blue and and celebrating that we come from these people, and Isis, Osiris, that were blue ones. So it's kind of like that. Celebration for that.
So fascinating. With the amount of information that you have available, how expanded your consciousness is, do you have grounding techniques, how to navigate this the third dimension that we're in, specifically in Los Angeles? You know, like, you're so cosmic and have so much access to so much information, and yet navigating the 3D can be quite a dense space. And yet in your presence, I feel like you're very grounded and
Disneyland.
present. Huh?
Disneyland.
Yeah.
How to play? I don't know. I feel I play all the time. I have fun all the time. Like I do whatever. When some people knew me when I was younger, they were doing a therapy for me, and said, it looks like if your energy is coming down as we are trying to go up. And I feel that, like, don't follow me. Because if you follow me, you're going down. Because I'm enjoying this reality. I'm enjoying to come to this planet, to enjoy what is here. So I don't have problems with grounding, because most of the time I'm not thinking about this. Like, I don't think about all these things unless someone asks me. I just wash the dishes and paint and go to the forest and go to a park to have fun and watch movies and all the possible things that can ground you, and enjoying food and going everywhere and traveling. And I don't consider myself a very dogmatic spiritual person. When I met my dad and my siblings when I was 27, he was very concerned that I would come with my philosophy and try to teach them how to be and whatever, I don't know. And actually I ended up the child. Like, I was like pushing them to go play, to do this, to, I don't know, buy a PlayStation, because I had never played something like this. I wanted them to teach me, these kind of things. So they figured out it was the opposite, actually, because I get bored very fast with the spiritual life. I need like things to enjoy, to have fun, and those things. And I do my spiritual talks when someone asks. Otherwise, blank. Like nothing. I don't want to think much about it. Unless there's a being from other dimension that comes anytime and says, you have to go this place, do this or that. That's why I don't usually do anything unless they tell me. Because when they tell me, things get tricky. and I have to do many things. So when they don't speak to me, I enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's
You're
like,
off playing.
I don't want to.
Yes. Leave me alone. I'm painting a rock.
Yes, and sometimes I do that. Like, no, now. Like,
Yeah.
no. Yeah. I'm having fun now, not now. Like, yeah.
I'm so happy that you have said this because it is so, play is so important to me. And something that I feel is that if there is a spiritual guide or a mentor that has like a permanently pinched expression and that is like teaching like this, then actually we're missing the whole point of being the gift of being in this dimension. And yes, there are some like very serious things that are happening on the planet. And at the same time, who we're being in the in-between moments of whether we're washing the dishes or making the bed or walking from A to B, the frequency of play is actually the very thing that is contributing to the energetics of the planet. So how would you, if you were to give a lens or a perception on the importance of play in everyday life, what would you say about that? Like how is that contributing to the collective?
Well, we have to remember that we were all kids and we were all using imagination and playing eventually, some moment in our lives. And for sure, the moment of childhood was the one that taught you more things than any other time. You learn 1 or 2 languages. You learn to write, to listen, to play, to walk. In the first 7 years of your life, playing is the 7 years that you will learn the most than in the other 70 years of your life. Because all what you are doing after you're 7 years old is basically a replica of what you learned before. So you read a book, why? Because you learned how to read at 6. You are writing a book, because you learned how to write when you were 5 or 6. So everything that you are doing, your emotions, your whatever you do in your life, you aim in your life, it was settled in those 7 years. So if you want to create yourself again, you have to be like in those 7 years. So you have to free your mind, enjoy, have fun, play, allow yourself to imagine. Those 7 years are the ones that allowed you to reach much more information because you were just being yourself and not being who others were waiting for you to be. So that's why if you want to transform yourself constantly in your life, you have to play. You have to be like a child all the time. Have fun. And that's not difficult, but we have been taught like, you're not a child anymore. You have to behave. Right. You have to do this. You have to do that. Grow up. Yeah, you have to have responsibilities now. Yeah, sure, but you can have fun too. Like, you can do whatever. I don't know. So there was once in a temple, we were doing meditations in Egypt many times, and I don't want to go back. They get very serious. So, but in one of the temples in Dendra, in the temple of Hathor, the Blue Mother, she was called the Blue Mother. So she, there is a priestess that comes on me, like, and I become her in the temple. So she used a veil, covers like this, and she starts to walk like a woman. You see this body. It's like if I do that, I'm like a clown. And suddenly we were in the middle of the temple in the chamber, 100 people, and she comes in me and she starts to do belly dancing. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell is now happening? And she was using my body like if it was her. And if you do that, it would be nice. If I do that, it would be like, oh my God, stop it. And I was like, no, I don't want to say this.
Well, he's having a good time. He's having a great time.
So she started to dance and anybody had the idea. And she started to fake an orgasm while dancing. Me. And there were all the guards there with guns, Egypt. So like staring like, what the hell? And I was faking an orgasm in the middle of 100 people in the middle of a temple, dancing, doing belly dancing. And suddenly she stares at everyone and says, oh my gosh, the spirit is so boring. And everyone starts to laugh. And it was like an orgasm of laughter after that. And there was that's it. And she would start to make jokes like, oh my God, it's been so long without feeling a dick. It was like, it was like all these kind of things in the middle of a temple. Oh my God. And everyone started to laugh. And the activation was about laughter, about activating the laugh. Yeah. And the guards were like, what is this? And I was with this veil doing these crazy things, and but it worked. Yeah, so sometimes I remember myself like, yeah, you have to let anything go, like play like a child.
I mean, you also got to just commend your courage to surrender your physical vessel.
Yeah, I don't care. It's like, I will die anyway, so.
Yeah. Totally. Wow. I have to say,
at least let other people remember me.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a little pattern interrupt into their autopilot. Remember that time? I have to say though that since the moment that you walked into this house for this podcast, we've been laughing. A little crew of us have just been laughing this whole time, and it is so it's such medicine to my spirit to be able to actually genuinely just laugh with others, specifically after you've had such extensive memory of so many different lifetimes, and what you've accumulated from all of this memory and this remembering is the lightness of the gift of being alive. And that this is something that you've condensed into now this physical life that you have with all the memory, and this is the expression, and it's available to all of us. And there's been something that's been coming through when I've been facilitating workshops is a meditation of going back to our 6-year-old self before we actually close out our first 7-year cycle, to remember how we used to play. And how can we collapse the timeline of that version of ourselves and the present version of ourselves? And something that I like to do is have a photo of my 6-year-old self on my altar. And she is the only person I ever want to impress. Yeah. And yes. My barometer of success at night when I go to bed is to ask myself, how much did I laugh today? And that is how I would account as a successful day.
Is it food for the spirit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ultimately, outside of orgasm, actually, I believe that play and laughter is the highest expression of the human vibratory state, and so utilizing these states to be able to access higher levels of awareness ultimately comes full circle back to our original conversation of the consequence of what it is that we move through is ultimately built from how much we allow ourselves to laugh and play, and therefore activate that within others will create the consequence of the frequency we choose to go into from this point forward. Matías, thank you so much for being here. It's just such a blessing to receive your wisdom. There is a whole plethora of questions that I would love to dive into, and also wanting to honor your time and feel like maybe we can do another podcast at some point next time that you're in Los Angeles. And I'm just so grateful. I guess even just looking down at my questions, best ways to raise your children is to play, as an adult, is to actually remember that they are here to teach us the frequency of play, and that we can remember as an adult. And there's a quote that says, that I read recently, the creative adult is the child that survived. And so how we can continue to play. If you were to, okay, I have one final question, we'll close it out on this. If your microphone was connected to all media outlets in the world, and you have 30 seconds to deliver a message to humanity.
Oh my gosh.
It's a big one. I'm putting you in the hot seat. You're in the golden hands. I'm putting you in the hot seat now. I mean, you had 30 seconds to deliver one message to humanity. What would you say?
A last message to humanity? Oh my God. Oh. I would say, remember you're not important. Remember we are here for Earth. We are Earth. And that anything that we do is a constant. So don't be afraid of making a mistake. We are just evolving all the time. And mistakes are the ones that makes us greater. So we are here for Earth. We are Earth. And don't be afraid. This is a constant. There's no end.
Just even you saying that, I felt the pressure that I placed on myself subconsciously just come off of my shoulders for a second. Oh, it's beautiful. Well, I one day hope that this microphone is connected to all media outlets in the world, and you become the Matías for president and deliver a message to mankind so that we may have a brighter future. Thank you so much for being here. Like I said before at the beginning of the prayer, you know, the greatest gift we can ever offer is our time and our presence. And I'm so grateful that you were so willing to jump on the podcast today and have this chat with me. And also what you've shared about death has just really allowed me to completely renegotiate my relationship with this transition phase that all of us are going to experience, whether it's loved ones or our own physical life at one point, we are going to transition. So the relationship to it has allowed me, and I guess everybody to listen to this, to shift what we do with our life now that we can understand where we go afterwards and the consequences. Also, ultimately, we are responsible right now in this moment while we are still breathing.
As a child, responsible as a child.
Yeah, the responsibility to be a child and to reactivate that childlike awe and wonder of what it truly means to be alive. Amazing. Well, I'm ready to go play with you now. To all of you beautiful humans, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Deja Blu. I am so grateful that I have been able to have the gift of having this conversation and share Matías with you on this platform. So if you feel a deep resonance with this episode, that you feel like it could support your loved ones, or you want to share it on your social media platforms, then please go ahead and tag myself and Matías and share it on your Instagram stories. Get this message out there in a good way. All of the information will be in the show notes for you to be able to find Matías and follow along the journey with this university school that is being created and how you can support. Until next week, remember, don't take everything so seriously. Lighten up. Let's play and infuse a little bit more play into our day and allow that to be our medicine to the world.